when I first started coaching, right, your question, I really didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that raise your hand if you're serious about wanting to play college football. And everybody who raised their hand that was serious about it, I was like, all right, now come with me. I'm going to take you to a dark place. Being in a football area is very important. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where if you're a man and you don't play football, like you don't exist. So
Damn.
football is a big deal to me. It always
Yeah.
has been. Life was definitely rough when we were growing up, like seen a lot, been through a lot, lived in every type of different situation that you could live in, but it ultimately really helped me be my communication skills with players. So, sometimes we were in Section 8, sometimes we were in a trailer park, sometimes we were staying at grandfather's house, sometimes we were, just moving constantly. We moved, 2 and 3 times a year. I went to a different school every year, so it was a lot of just like a lot of transition, a lot of change, living on my own. I remember I lived on my own. Me and my mom stayed in an abandoned building together.
Wow.
So a lot of things where when kids come to me with, I have a problem or I need some mentorship or, and I always just say like the devil wants you to be in seclusion. He wants you to think that you're the only one who ever went through that problem, because that's how I felt as a kid.
Great
I felt
statement.
like angry and uptight, and I didn't want to tell anybody what I was going through.
Yeah.
And then, eventually I opened up to a couple people and the Bible says, you have not because you ask not.
Yeah, there it is.
My life started to change when I started actually telling people my story and asking questions. And I've had all these guardian angels, I call them, that have helped me, that have been complete strangers that have got me to this point where I'm at now today.
All right, man. Legacy Lounge. Sometimes people want to talk.
We have an incredible guest here.
What's up, brother?
The definition of the Legacy Lounge is the stuff that he's putting together. He's a great community leader. His story is amazing.
All right, welcome back. We're at episode 42, and I'm more fired up than I normally am for our guest, Coach Brennan Marion. Welcome to the lounge and welcome to Sacramento, man.
Man, thank you for having me. It's been awesome to be in Sacramento. You guys do a great job with the show, so I'm fired up to be on and get a chance to talk to you guys.
I really appreciate that. And man, Sac State football, we've obviously seen some steps in the right direction. This last year wasn't where it's supposed to be, but there's a big time buzz going on right now, and it's because of you, man. It's because of you. The energy that you bring and obviously the recruiting just guru that you are, man. How excited are you to be in town, man?
Yeah, I'm excited from the standpoint that the president and the university, the boosters, donors, stakeholders in the program, they're all in on making this a, Power 4 type of program and, building the infrastructure of what that looks like to get it done. And, the staff is fired up. They've been, working nonstop. I mean, we're texting each other till 1 a.m. on recruits and, trying to build this thing the right way. And, just the community support of being in the state capitol, I think it's limitless on how far we can take it, with the right amount of support, which I believe that we have.
Yeah.
And, we're just excited about the opportunity to be able to do that.
Incredible.
So I want to know, just kind of have you fill in the pieces, but you were coaching at UNLV. So what ultimately brought you to Sac State?
Yeah, I mean, me and my wife, we had talked about a program that I go to as a head coach. I want them to really, really want us to be there, and so a lot of programs have reached out, whether to be their coordinator or be their head coach. And it always felt like unauthentic or kind of like they were filling out the process.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I talked to Mark Orr and I talked to President Wood, it was just like, we'll be on the flight tomorrow to Vegas to come see you. It was like,
let's go.
They were like all in, and they really they did a great recruiting job. I mean, they recruited us, and, we're all in on what do you need, Coach? Like, how can we make this happen? And, for me, that meant a lot, and every place that I've went, it's kind of been a relationship like that to get me there to the place, because ultimately you have to be, you have to have a decent working relationship with the people that you're going to be with every day. You spend a lot of time. I mean, I'm a big during the season, football 19 to 20 hours a day type of guy. So, you have to have a great working relationship with the people that you're going to be working with. And so when they were all in on bringing us here and doing whatever it took to get us here, then we were all in and we made it happen.
Have you visited Sac previous to this? Was this your like first time coming to Sacramento?
No, funny story. Actually, when I was trying to figure it out, I got done playing, in the NFL. My NFL career was over, and I was trying to figure out what I want to do. That transitional stage. I stayed like out in the Thomas area, like where the old arena was.
That's where I am right now. So, that's why I'm saying.
And so when we went to a game and they said they moved the arena downtown, I was like, dang, I didn't know that. I had no clue that they moved the arena. Like I didn't know anything about that. So, had kind of when I had first got the head coaching job at St. Patrick's, St. Vincent, and Vallejo, I was driving all the way from Natomas all the way to Vallejo just to. Because it was so much. They had those cheap house deals out here. So I was like, living in the Bay Area was just getting just rolling through all the NFL savings. So I was like,
what years was that? Just give my timeline here.
That was 2012.
Okay.
Yeah, like
man,
2012, 2013.
I've been out there. We must have been neighbors, man.
No doubt. So yeah, I knew the kind of Sacramento area for there, and then always kind of coming here to recruit. Obviously Folsom, being one of the top programs. Every school that I've been at, there's been a player there that we were trying to acquire or look at. And then the football camp at Sacramento State. It was crazy. I have a friend named Jordan McGowan. He does some stuff in the area, feeding kids and doing some different things. And, he lives out here in Sac. And Coach T, that runs the TMP 7-on-7.
That's my guy, man.
So I always come out here and see them. But I remember we came to a camp at Sac State, I think it was 2 years ago, my first year at UNLV, and drove around the campus. And I'm like, man, this could be like this could be a great school to work at. I told Jordan that, and then so he's laughing like, yeah, you spoke it into existence. So, no, I mean, Sacramento has a great football tradition. I think football is big here. People really care about football. I know that they wanted the Raiders to be here, and so and I know back in the day, cool story that a guy told me the other day that we were eating lunch that Bill Walsh and when the 49ers were rolling, the training camp used to be back out here.
Had no clue about that.
I did know that.
Yeah. So, being in a football area is very important. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where if you're a man and you don't play football, like you don't exist. So,
damn,
football is a big deal to me. It always has been. So.
Oh man, and that's kind of what I would ask about timeline, but your story and what brought you up into this point was a big thing that I definitely wanted to dive into. Everybody can pull you up and see your stops and everything like that, but you've turned into this incredible leader of men and a huge motivator, period, inside and out. That doesn't normally happen unless along the way you've gone through some stuff, man, and overcome some stuff at the different stops that you have and everything. So, out of high school and what you did with college, give us that little timeline, man.
Yeah, so I would say like I had a lot of great, people in my life, coming up. And, my grandmother, she's not here anymore, but she obviously put God in my heart, and, I'm grateful for her doing that because my relationship with Christ has carried me through a lot of adversity and situations that I went through, just knowing that, that calm voice. I tell everybody that it's just going to be okay. We're going to get through it. We're going to find a way. And, just been very blessed through that. My childhood was not an easy one. Mm-hmm. And what I thought was a curse on my life when I was a kid is really gave me those communication skills to inspire and lead players from all over the country and all different walks of life. Yeah. Because as a kid, my dad was in the military. He got discharged and, got into some trouble. And, my mom was young when she had my brother. My mom used to always call us her $1 million boys, and it came to fruition.
Yeah.
She really spoke that into existence, and she was going through a lot. She had my older brother at 14 and she had me at 21.
Wow.
Right. And so for both me and my older brother to be college graduates and be successful and, do all those things, my mom really, she taught us to be tough.
That's
like
incredible.
as boys, you got to be tough. And we had, I had a job. I had 3 jobs when I was 10 years old.
Wow.
And my older brother had, he was an assistant manager by the time he was 15. He got a academic scholarship to the University of Purdue. My older brother's really successful. So, You know, that's kind of, he was like my hero in growing up. When my dad wasn't around, my brother basically raised me. I mean, he taught me. He was the one, you know, and he's still on me. Like, he doesn't stop, you know, like nothing's good enough for my older brother. But he was the one who, like, put, you know, he wasn't an athlete, you know, but he made me be the athlete of the family. Like, so he would put, you know, I started football at 5 years old in my grandfather's backyard, you know, with the older kids, because my older brother's 6 years older than me. And so, you know, I remember my mom didn't want to, you know, I always tell this story about my mom's, that everybody laughs about this, but when I was like 6, about to be 7, my birthday's in August, so it kind of falls after the date that you could sign up for the teams. And so, you know, my older brother and everybody in the neighborhood's telling my mom, like, Brennan's a football player. Like, you need to let him play football. And my mom's like, that boy's too little. He ain't playing no football. He's going to get hurt out there. Like, and she's like, I don't got $25 to, like, at that time, $25 was a sign up.
Exactly.
Right? So this gives you kind of a background to where we used to be. You know, like, I'm a Section 8 kid. You know, like, a lot of people don't really know what Section 8 means, but that's like free house. You know, Section 8 is you're not doing really well, you know? And so, you know, my mom's like, man, I can't afford this $25. You can't play football. You know, so it's like, me and my brother are like, man, what are we going to do? Like, we kept trying. Like, so my brother's got me, like, he's putting bricks in book bag and having me run around the projects. And he's like, you got to keep training. She's going to let you play. Just keep training, like doing push-ups. And so finally, like a day or so, you know, goes on, and she throws the $25 at my brother, like, he better be good at football, boy. Like, don't waste my money. And so my brother, like, was the one walking me to practice and taking me. And the first game, I had like 5 touchdowns. And I always tell the kids the stories. Like, I was running the touchdowns. My mom was at the game. I was running the touchdowns and looking at her like, like, I told you I'm good. You know, like, I was trying to prove a point. Like, I told you we could play, you know. And so ever since then, football's kind of been like the deal. And
he
so
started out as a beast from game 1, talking smack on the way in. That's great, man.
And so, you know, like, obviously, you know, life was definitely rough when we were growing up, like, seen a lot, been through a lot, you know, lived in every type of different situation that you could live in, but it ultimately really helped me be my communication skills with players. So, you know, sometimes we were in Section 8, sometimes we were in a trailer park, sometimes we were staying at grandfather's house, sometimes we were, you know, just moving constantly. We moved, you know, 2 and 3 times a year. I went to a different school every year, you know, so it was a lot of just like a lot of transition, a lot of change, living on my own. I remember I lived on my own. Me and my mom stayed in an abandoned building together.
Wow.
You know, so a lot of things where when kids come to me with, I have a problem, or I need some mentorship, or, you know, and I always just say, like, the devil wants you to be in seclusion. He wants you to think that you're the only one who ever went through that problem, you know, because that's how I felt as a kid.
Great
I felt
statement.
like angry and uptight, you know, and I didn't want to tell anybody what I was going through. And then, you know, eventually I opened up to a couple people, and the Bible says, you know, you have not because you ask not.
Yeah,
you know?
there it is.
My life started to change when I started actually telling people my story and asking questions. And I've had all these guardian angels, I call them, that have helped me, that have been complete strangers, that have got me to this point where I'm at now today. You know, certain teachers and administrators who have, you know, given me a place to stay and helped me get in the right classes and, you know, taking care of me. And so, you know, that is ultimately what helps me, you know, more than, you know, other coaches kind of take it personal sometimes that I have a closer relationship with the players, but it's only because I just remember being the kid like them that needed someone to talk to. I've never, you know, got too far from shore on why I started coaching and why I needed to be around football. Football was always my family. I mean, there's so many people who come to games now that fed me, or, you know, they didn't know that I was starving because I didn't tell them, but that was the only time I was going to eat that day when I was at their house. Or, you know, my little league coach, he always cries when we see each other because, you know, like, he saw the eviction notice on my door when he drove me home from practice, and he was like, come on, you're going to stay at my house for the weekend. Or you're going to do this. And so, you know, I just think it's important that coaches actually, you know, there's a lot of coaches like me actually that have stories, and a lot of guys tell them that I inspire them to be themselves and open up and talk to kids, because a lot of people, you know, you just try to bury that once you get away from that situation. Everybody tries to just bury and act like, you know, everything's all good, which as a man, yes, you have to do that, but you know, a testimony is the ability to, you know, inspire somebody else with your story so they can share theirs and help more people. And so hopefully my story helps other people, you know, free themselves up to accomplish their dreams.
It absolutely has to. I mean, now hearing that that's the foundation, there's no question why. You know, the drive is there, and the appreciation for even the little stuff just come inherent to you because of what you had to go through. So that makes complete sense to me, and that's what other kids need. That's a huge need for that, especially in football.
Yeah, there's no surprise that there has to be. I mean, you're leading the entire nation in transfer portal recruits right now. There's got to be a tie to just the relatability aspect of it. I mean, in your playing days, when you were playing, I'm probably going to guess that you weren't probably super tight with all of your coaches. That you,
No.
we're not. I mean, we don't have to go on record, but like in your entire playing career, high school, college, NFL, did you have any relationships that with coaches that were really, really good, or were they all not so good?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, obviously I had my little league coach, Keith Hutchison. When I was in high school, there was really only one coach that really affected me. He got me to think about the junior college route and go that way, and really saw talent in me when other coaches, right, when, you know, in little league and high school and middle school, there's a lot of political of, does your dad help with the team?
No question.
Is your mom a team mom? You know, and I was always the new kid transitioning, and my mom wasn't really around, so it was always hard for me to, you know, even though I might have been the more talented kid on the team, right? It might be like, well, we don't really know you. You're in the back, you know. So really struggled in high school. High school was definitely not a great feeling for me until my senior year. I transferred back to a school that my older brother went to. And I had a lot of relationships there from when I was a little kid because we lived in that community for a little bit. So that place was a safe place for me to develop and grow. And Coach Kavanaugh was there. He was the one who talked me through junior college and being able to go through that. And then and JC, I had a guy who, you know, Coach Williams, who came in. So my JC story is crazy. So
yeah, I'm curious on that.
Coach Spurback, you know, he's the reason why I got into coaching, not in a good way. I think that I'm blessed that he gave me an opportunity. I never talk bad about anybody who gives me an opportunity. But he just didn't really reach the kids on where we were coming from. You know, we had kids from, I remember my roommate was from Oakland, Richmond. I mean, we had kids from Miami, Florida.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you put a whole bunch of kids from the hood together, and they don't have any type of structure or plan. Like, it's just like, you know, it was wild, right? And so, you know, that didn't work out for me at Foothill that first year. I went there, then I transferred to De Anza. And at De Anza, I met a guy named Daryl Williams. He really was all in on making sure that I was a star football player. Like, he did the things to help me highlight my skill set and show, you know, I think I finished like as the #1 receiver in all of junior college of yards, touchdowns.
Let's go.
I was living in the locker room at the time. Like, I was
Yeah.
you know, I mean, we stayed everywhere. We stayed in the church's parking lot. We stayed all over the place. But really the people there that helped me, I was in a class there, a lady named Natasha Joplin. It was a human sexuality class that you had to take in junior college. And so she's like, every day you're wearing the same clothes, you look angry, like what's wrong? You know, she kept asking me, and every day I was like, I'm good. I was just, that's just that,
Yeah,
you know,
of
when
course.
you come from the hood, like, you don't tell anybody what you know, your parents leave you at home and you haven't seen them in 2 or 3 days. You don't tell anybody what's going on. You just get used to just finding a way. And so she keeps asking me, and finally I just was like, all right, I'm living in a trash bag in the locker room.
Damn.
Like, and she's like, well, what's your plan? I was like, well, I'm going Division I. She's like, do you have a plan? Like, tell me, like, you know, like, what's your plan? Like, break it down. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, I really don't have a plan. I just know that I'm good at football and I'm going to go Division I. And I came out here and I got a goal to go Division I.
Man.
And so she was like, all right, I know a man who can help you. And to me, like, only my older brother probably was the only man that I had a decent relationship with growing up because, you know, like, I always say the reason why these players struggle with coaching is not so much that they don't want to be coached. It's the relationship piece of, if you've been in a house where a man has abused your mom, left you,
Mm-hmm.
beat you up,
Yep.
done you wrong, that's all you ever seen from a man, right? Then you're not going to have any type of structure or
Exactly.
discipline on a man saying something to you. You're going to always be defensive to it. And
Yep.
so for me, at that point in my life, anytime a man said anything to me, I just thought like, I better be ready to fight, or like,
Yeah.
it's, you know, like,
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I took that, you know. And so I was kind of like, I'll talk to you, but I don't want you really telling my business to people.
Yeah.
And so this guy named Howard Irvin, he was the dean of De Anza College at the time. He was just like, man, listen, we're going to get you in the right classes. We're going to get you a class schedule that fits you trying to be a Division I football player. And he just kind of mapped out a plan, and he was like, I'm just going to help you all the way to the finish line. I'm just going to help you get there. You're going to have to do the work, but I'm going to put you in a situation where all you got to do is make the layup. You know, like, you're going to be right where you need to be. You just have to finish it. And that guy really, really changed my life, because I had no academic plan. I had no academic structure on what I would, like, the process of what that looks like to become a Division I athlete. And so, and then he kind of passed the baton to Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn at the University of Tulsa, where, you know, because of me and Spurback bumping heads at Foothill and not seeing eye to eye on things, and, you know, just your word is very important to me. And if your word is off, I'd rather you say, I don't know, or I can't help you, than to tell me the wrong thing. And so, you know, we were kind of off. And then, you know, so my recruiting was, even though I was the number one receiver in the nation in junior college, when it came to stats and all that stuff, my recruiting went down because, you know, everybody's like, why would you leave Foothill? At the time, Foothill was like a nationally ranked program. It was a big program.
Got it.
And so, you know, De Anza was like the lowest program. De Anza wasn't very good at the time. And so, you know, recruiting was hard, just trying to figure that out, because schools would come, and I could tell by the way that, you know, you just have that feeling. Somebody looks at you like, yeah, this kid's good, but I don't like, you know, like they were just, people were just kind of like pushing me to the side. And so, you know, I remember Tulsa called me. They called me on a Wednesday or Thursday, and by the next day, like, I was on a flight to Tulsa. So I borrowed one of Coach Williams' suits, because I didn't have one. I borrowed a suit and a tie.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really my only opportunity right now. Like, even though all these schools that came by, I mean, every school had came by to see me, but nobody had pulled the trigger and offered me a full ride. So I go out to Tulsa, and they're like, I'm like, Tulsa, Oklahoma, is it Division I? Like, I've never heard of Tulsa in my life. Like, I'm like, tell me some stuff about Division I. They're telling me, like, Lovie Smith and Howard Twilley and all these guys. I'm like, okay, it's Division I. Okay, I got a chance here. And Coach Malzahn's like, I'm a high school coach, and we're going to set all these records. And Mike Norvell, who's the head coach of Florida State now, he's like, I'm young, I'm hungry, I'll do the drills with you. He was like just out of college. And I was like, man, these dudes are hungry like me. You know, Todd Graham was the head coach, who ended up going to Arizona State and all that stuff as the head coach. And they were all just hungry. I could tell that they had, you know, and they were sharing their stories. I mean, Coach Malzahn was from a trailer park. Mike Norvell didn't know his dad. Todd Graham, same thing. Didn't know, you know, like, so they were the first coaches that actually shared who they were with me and opened up to me. And I was like, man, I could see myself with these dudes. Like, they have the same kind of mindset that I'm on. Like, they'll understand that, like, I want to be the best and not just be average. Like, and so it worked out. I mean, I remember being there, and I'm just like, where do I sign? I watched the practice. I watched the players. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm better than these.
Oh, let's go.
I know I can start here. Like, boom. And so I didn't ask about anything else. I didn't know where I would live. I didn't know where I just knew it was Division I. And if you guys are gonna give me an opportunity, like, I'll sign the paper. And so I signed the paper, and then, you know, ultimately all the other schools tried to come back and you know, offer me and recruit me, and I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna stick with Tulsa.
It's so wild. Like, once you finally get an offer, and nobody wanted to pull the trigger before that. Like, come on, man. The recruit process trips me out, and it's way different now than what it is. I told you I got baseball and softball in my family. This recruiting process is wild to me.
So I've always been the coach who offered kids first. And because if you see talent and you know the kid has the talent, and he has the character and the story that you're looking for and the grades, I mean, I don't need somebody else to tell me that the kid is good. I mean, if we believe the kid is good and he has the measurables and what we're looking for, we're going to offer the kid and not wait for 10 other schools to offer him. I mean, to me, that doesn't really.
Would you have recruited you?
Oh, as far as my play on the field, absolutely. Where I was at academically at the time, socially, I would have had to get to know me
Yeah.
to go through the entire process. But, athletically that year, but the thing about me is like someone's character and story is very important to me, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
The story of a person is really like if a player, I always tell a player, like, if you can articulate your story and your plan to somebody, then chances are you're going to find a way to get there.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so for me, like, if you would have asked me at that time at 18, 19, hey man, like you're an All-American, you're on the dean's list, even though you don't even know what classes you're in, you're on the dean's list and you're an All-American. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I would say, hey coach, I'm living up there in the press box, or I'm living in the training room.
Wow.
I have no money. I have nobody helping me.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm doing. I'm eating a dollar sandwich. Me and my friend Chuck used to cut the cheeseburger and share a cheeseburger, and that's what we would eat before practice. So like, if somebody would have got to, like me, because I would actually get to know the kid and see where he was coming from. Yes, I would offer the kid.
I love it. I was just curious. I'm not sure if anybody asked you that. That's wild, man. And so Tulsa is where it was. I've obviously seen the numbers, but tell me how Tulsa was, man.
Yeah, Tulsa was awesome. Just from the standpoint of like, at that time, I really needed like genuine love and relationship and care, because I started to get so cold, like seeing friends die, seeing family members die. Grandma just passed away, uncle passed away. That I had those were like my safe places as kids, like my uncle was like, you ain't being in the streets. You're coming living at my house. Like when I had nowhere, when my mom had to put my mom in a shelter, and then she had been locked up for a little bit with some issue that she had with helping somebody out. And, like I stayed at their house, and so those were like my people.
Yeah.
And, now my people were gone and friends were, in and out. And, so it was just like, I really needed that like safe place to like grow. And Tulsa was that. I mean, I never been around people who were like, in Pittsburgh, we don't talk to you if you're not a family member. Like you have to be like sworn in to the family.
Wow. Like, I didn't know that.
Like when I'm home, it's weird. Like when I'm home, all my family, they live within like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of each other. But they don't all get together unless I say like, I'm home, I'm picking everybody up, let's go, we're having a family reunion. And I'll make them come together. But like they live right down the street. Like you can walk to each other's house, but it's like, that's just the way in Pittsburgh is it's a very segregated, tough city. Like people go through a lot, very tough, very hard-nosed, type of city. And so, Tulsa was just very welcoming and homey, and we'll take you to eat. You want to go to church? Do you need anything? And I'm like, I remember calling Coach Miles and I'd be like, what's wrong with these guys? Like, everybody says hello and like, nice. Like, are they trying to get something from me? Like, I was just...
You had no trust level from anywhere else in your life. So
I went from Pittsburgh to hyphy movement Bay Area to the Bible Belt, Oklahoma, and everybody's nice, and kids are married at 18 and family 19. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? But I really needed that just to like... and then my junior year, obviously, we had a great year. We won 10 games. I set a whole bunch of records as a player. We did amazing things on offense. And, like they wanted me to go to the draft. A lot of, a couple of agents reached out. A couple teams told me, like, you have a decent draft grade. You can go to the draft.
Let's go.
And so I was like, I finally felt like a place where I was like a captain and like, like this is my team and like family, and I just really wasn't ready to leave, and I wanted to get my degree. Yeah. And so I come back my senior year, and we get nationally ranked, and we're we're on we're ESPN's like back when it was like us and Boise is like the BCS Buster teams. We were rolling, and the end of I was projected like a first to second round draft pick depending on what I ran in the 40. I tear my ACL the last play of the game, the conference championship game. And I just remember, like, before the game, I'm, like, on the phone with agent trying to decide, like, where I'm going to get my mom a house.
Dang.
And, like, I'm planning and projecting all these things of what's to come because, I'm invited to the NFL Combine. I already have all this stuff kind of going on, and I know what it's going to look like. And so, That was obviously rough.
That
Because
had to have been.
everybody's depending on me, looking at me like you're the one, you're going to save us.
Yeah.
And I know what that pressure feels like from a player's perspective too. When you go from being overlooked, going to junior college is basically being a walk-on.
For sure.
Right. So
No
I went
doubt.
from basically being a walk-on to top 5 receiver in the country, billboards all over Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying like, man, this dude, every game that we play, they're like, Brennan Marion's the one, and I'm like, a few years ago, like, I didn't even know if I could even go. Like,
Thank you.
I'm thinking,
Yeah.
like, I'm going to go to the Air Force, or I'm going to just live at home. Like, what am I going to do? And so that was pretty definitely a traumatic moment in my story. But I just remember thinking like, after I got over the tears and feeling like I broke everybody's heart, I was like, man, you got to get back up. Like,
Yeah.
that's just what you do. You just tie
you
your
have
boots,
to.
you go back to work,
Yep.
find a way. And I remember I didn't get drafted on draft day. They told me that I'd still probably get drafted.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't. And I was just like, man. So I called the Dolphins myself, and I was just like, hey, because I went on a visit to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
But really, a couple of doctors had told me my knee would never be the same. But I, being young, I'd never had an injury. That was my first injury. And so I was like, yeah, right, I'm fine. Like,
Yeah.
you guys can't tell me if I can play or
exactly.
not. Like, I'll be good. And, I guess a couple teams got word of that, and so they didn't draft me. But I had went on a visit to the Dolphins. Coach Sperano at the time and Bill Parcells, they were there. And Jeff Ireland, and they said they really liked me through the process. And so I called them, and I was like, hey, no team picked me up. Nobody, I'd love to come there. And they were like, perfect.
That's great.
And so it was them and the Eagles. The Eagles wanted me to do like a red shirt deal. And in hindsight, I probably should have went to the Eagles.
Okay.
Because they didn't have any expectations for me
Got
to play that first year. They just wanted me to rehab and get my knee right.
Uh-huh.
But because of the way that I was wired,
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm good. Like people call me go-go. Like that really is. I'm the most impatient,
Yeah.
up-tempo, gotta go. Like,
I love it.
That's just the way that I'm kind of set up. And so, when that happened, I was just like, all right, I'm gonna go to the Dolphins. I think I can get in their starting lineup, and I did. Like so, right as camp starts, I'm in the starting lineup, and I do a warm up drill, and I knew I tore my ACL again. Like,
Oh my God, no way.
yeah, I felt it. I knew. I was like, yeah, my ACL is torn. But I'm a little bit, not right in the head, which every football player has to not be right a little bit. So I practiced for probably 2 or 3 practices with a torn ACL, knowing like I would just ice it up and be like, all right,
Bro, that is insane.
But then it got to a point where I couldn't like run anymore. I couldn't.
That's
like,
a problem.
I couldn't. It was so swollen, I couldn't like do anything, and so I finally had to go in there and tell them like, boom, and
Dang.
So the great thing is like anytime I see any of those players from the Dolphins, they always say like, man, you were a dog. Like, you would have been if you didn't get hurt, man. So the blessing was I got paid by the NFL for 2 years, right? And so that got my family, able to like change the trajectory of my family, getting the NFL stamp on your name.
Yes.
And, I always tell people I got to the show, I didn't get to dance.
Yeah.
But the goal was to get there, and I got there. Obviously I wanted to do more than what I did when I was there. But, just to be in that environment and see football at the highest level and know that you could, like I could sleep easy at night knowing that I could have played at that level when I was.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like I earned a spot on the team and earned the guys' respect. And so, keep rolling there. I go, injured that entire year. And really that's when I like started spiraling and like just not on a good headspace as far as getting hurt.
Of course.
You work your whole life to get to that point.
Exactly.
And then, when you fall down in the conference championship game and you think it's over, and then you get another chance, and then you fall down again, and you're like, man, God, what are you trying
What do you tell us?
what are you trying to tell me right now? So that year I always tell people, man, it was a lot of drinking, a lot of partying, a lot of just like, man, like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And my daughter was just born, right when I graduated college there that year, being a rookie. And, like, it was like, man, you got to get yourself together. You got a little one.
Yeah.
You can't, like,
all
I knew is, like, Pittsburgh and the streets and all that type of stuff. And I was like, man, I worked way too hard to come back here with these knuckleheads.
Yeah.
And I remember my cousin, he was like, bro, you got a degree. You're in the NFL. Like, what are you doing with us? Like, get out of here. Like,
Good for them, man.
What else do I got to do? And so you know, I got myself together again. I got into coaching. My boy Sam Mirza, he's an agent now. He works with Lee Steinberg in that group. I mean, he's done a great job, represents a lot of guys. And he was like, man, you should get into coaching. And at that time, I'm like, bro, I'm not coaching no kids, man. Like, what? Like, I was making like 30 grand a week.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not coaching no kids. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't even about it.
Yeah.
Like, I knew I wanted to. So my goal really, if I would have played in the NFL, like you know, God laughs at your, like what I told God what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was play in the NFL 10 years and open up a community center when I was done playing. Right? I wanted to have a bar in Pittsburgh, and I wanted to have a community center. That's what I wanted to do. That was my plan. Right? And so obviously God laughed at my plan.
Yeah.
And I remember the first day I was at James Logan High School in Union City.
You were at James Logan?
Yeah. And James Logan is one of the
Otis went?
Otis went there.
Yeah. And so that's how me and Otis connected. When I met him, I was like, man, listen.
That's wild.
I coached at Logan. He's like, oh, yeah.
No.
Good. Yeah, you know, like we're on.
How old were you when you coached at Logan?
I was 20, 21, 22.
Oh, my God. You were young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was young. So, because I graduated high school at 17. I graduated college at 21. So, I mean, that was like my rookie year. I was 21, 22.
Dang.
And, you know, I went up there and Coach Zuber, he said, man, you're from Pittsburgh and you played at Tulsa. Like, I looked you up. Like, I know you know football. Like, just go out there with the kids and teach them what you know. And I was like, I've never worked with a player in my life. Like, what? He's like, yeah, just go out there with the kids. And I'm like, bro, what? Like,
yeah.
So the way, I mean, it's a stupid question, but the way you are now, I mean, probably wasn't how it was when you first started when you were 21. I mean, were you not as, I mean, you command a room, right? So, what was that like being 21 coaching? I mean, were you like soft spoken, or the way that you come off now, is this how you've always been?
Yeah. So, you know, we're keeping it real, right? I am like whatever the player needs. Like I am like the little like socks, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever the guys need, like I'm all in on making sure they have the greatest student athlete experience that they can possibly have, because of the Howard Irvins and Mike Norvales that helped me get through the process. Right. And I am a big relationship guy, but the guys can tell you, like, when I get on the field though, like I am a straight asshole.
Yeah.
It's like every little detail has to be perfect, and I give them like A to Z plan, and we don't skip a letter. Like A, B, C, like. And I'm like obsessed about it, and I'm like, you know, my wife, like, so we first, she's like, you are a psychopath. Like she thinks like I am crazy out there on the field. But it's just because the coaches that I had that did not let me slack. Like I wouldn't be the player that I was, or the coach that I was, if I was around people that let you be average. Like I never could understand like why you would do anything and not try to be like the absolute best at it, like the one. And so like when I first started coaching, right, your question, I really didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that raise your hand if you're serious about wanting to play college football. And everybody who raised their hand that was serious about it, I was like, all right, now come with me. I'm going to take you to a dark place.
Damn.
Like, I'm going to show you.
Let's go.
I'm putting cleats on. I'm like, at this time, I'm still like putting cleats on, and I'm still like, what you doing? Let's go. Like, you know, and they're kind of scared. Like, I'm still like built up. And, you know, like I'm I'm still training. And, a real player at this time. So they're like, yo, this dude, like, I better do what he says before he punches me in the chest. Like, this dude is like serious, you know? So, you know, but really what I learned that would change my life, and I knew when I walked on that field what I would be a coach the rest of my life, was the players just wanting information and knowledge from me, and a relationship of like, those players made me like snap. I like instantly just snapped out of a fog, you know, like I was in that woe's me, I got hurt, what am I gonna do? You know, partying every week, just like, I was a loser, you know, at the time. Like in my mind, I was just losing, you know? And so those kids made me realize that I was a winner and I had something to offer. And they were like, you know, and they were going through worse stuff and smiling. I remember being them. Like, I remember this kid, Karan Hodge. His dad is a famous comedian in the Bay, Mario Hodge.
Okay.
And Mario had went to jail for a little bit. This dude's a great dad, like a great dad. But he had just got out of jail. You know, he was struggling, just got out of jail. He had like 5 of his boys. He had like, 5 of his boys living in a truck. And they're living like place to place. And I remember I was like, man, I'll take Karan. And Karan lived with me.
Man.
And, there was so many kids. Like, we had kids from, at Logan, you have kids from Richmond, you have kids from Oakland, you have kids from San Francisco, Hunters Point, like, because they all just come in on the BART.
Exactly.
And these kids are smiling. I mean, these kids' stories were like, one day we did our stories, like everybody got up and said their story. And I just remember going like, man, what do you got to complain about? I got 3 cars. I got 6 figures in my bank account. Like, I'm living good. Like, minus me not playing football. Like, everything else is pretty much good.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so I was just like, man, stop the complaining, stop the weird stuff, and let's just help these kids. And I had like 4 or 5 kids living with me and just taking care of them. And I just remembered like, okay, now you got to get yourself right. Because I always hated a coach that was a hypocrite. Like, you can't say, don't do this, don't do that, and you're doing it.
Thank you.
Right? And so I was like, all right, well, I got to stop partying. I got to stop, hanging with the people that I'm hanging with if I'm asking these guys.
Yeah.
And so they kind of got me right. I still talk to those kids from Logan.
Man.
Like, kids that
changing
I coached.
Lives, man.
I hired a coach that I coached the next year in San Jose at Harker. He's Sid Christian Amurthy. He's working with us now at Sac State.
Let's go.
And those kids I've been talking to since I coached them in 2010, 2011, 2012. Like, I'm still in contact with all those kids because I needed those relationships in the locker room. That's what I always needed football for.
Yeah.
It was me and my older brother. He's 6 years older than me. When he went off to school, I didn't have anybody but people that I knew in football.
Yeah.
That was my family, So just at first, it was more about the mentorship. I was not the schematics coach that I am now, or, I knew plays from just plays that we ran. I just copied and pasted what we ran at Tulsa that worked. I was like, this play was good.
Yeah.
And you're fast. We'll give it to you. And we had so much talent at Logan.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that team was great. I mean, we had one dude who got drafted in baseball, one dude who won a national championship in track was the quarterback pro throw. I mean, we had like 5 or 6 guys that played Division I. Like,
it's wild.
Yeah.
Every play worked. I'm like, the only time the plays didn't work is when we played De La Salle. Like, everybody else, the plays worked. It was like, these guys just need me to make sure they have a hot meal. And so, so that's where I really, when I got to the Harker School next, got to fast forward, one thing that happened in the journey, like when you tell God, like, I always laugh now. I just learned how to enjoy every single day as it comes and not project so much and plan so much for the future. And it's one of the things that I don't like in coaching is because everything is so scheduled and regimented, but life is not really like that. Like, yes, it's good to have a plan and a process, but, shit happens, stuff happens. And so, it's like I went to Canada, the NFL lockout happened, and so I was like, all right, I got to go back to playing. Everybody in my family is like, you quit on your dream, and I'm like listening to that because I'm thinking like, I got to go for it one more time and all this stuff. But I knew I just wanted to coach. Yeah. But obviously coaching at the time, I mean, when you have a $1.3 million contract and they give you $500 stipend for coaching, you're like, there's no way we're going to be able to make this work. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go back to playing football. And so when I went to Canada, I tore my ACL the second day up there.
Come on. 3 times?
Yeah.
Same ACL.
Same ACL. Same right leg, tore my ACL. And this time, I tear everything, like microfracture surgery, like kneecap burst, like it was bad. And so the Cowboys called me. I'll never forget. I was on the way to the hospital there. The Cowboys called me, like, we want you to come in next week for a workout. And I'm like, just insult to end, just like, man. And I was like, you know what? We're not even gonna be upset about this one. So we're in Canada. I'm like, I get surgery up there. I'm all alone. Nobody's up there with me. It's just like the surgery didn't go great. I'm sitting up there and like I was in ICU for a little bit. Then they transitioned me over and I'm like in a scary, weird Montreal hospital. And I'm just like, I'm done with this football thing.
No.
Like, I'm done playing. Like, I'm all in on coaching. I'll figure it out. And I got a notebook. And I just started like writing plays and writing what I would do. So I came back to San Jose where my daughter was at. You know, I was like, I'm gonna just be dad and I'm gonna be a coach and I'm gonna work a job. So I worked at Cogswell College. It was a digital arts and animation school. I did admissions there in Sunnyvale. I worked at the Harker School, helping coach there. I was the JV head coach and receiver coach for the varsity. I worked at West Valley College.
Wow.
Helping them and use their gym to like train kids. I was training different kids and helping them build a football program and their strength coach, receiver coach. And I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. So I would pick my daughter up from daycare. I would take her to football practice at Harker. Then we'd go to the gym and train some kids. Boom. And I was just doing that. And being at Harker, you know, the cool thing about being at Harker is you meet a lot of affluent families.
Of course.
And so we had 7 billionaires, I think, on the team. Or families that were, you know, either right there or over the mark. And so, you know, and they were like, Coach, you're way too good to be here. Like, they're like hyping me up. And I'm like, man, I've never really done football halfway before.
Yeah.
You know, because I was, in my mind, in my heart, I felt like I was doing it halfway. Like I wasn't, you know,
I know what you're saying.
Doing it all the way.
Yeah.
And so I just started applying for a whole bunch of jobs. I remember I applied for like 300 jobs all over the country.
Oh, wow.
And I got like 3 real interviews where they like, okay, we want you to come in, do an interview. One school said no. I went to another school in Pennsylvania. They said no. And then I went to St. Pat, St. Vincent. And they had just came off like a hazing scandal or like some stuff had happened there before I was there, where they had like, you know, limited team. Like it was going to be like a kind of a sketchy situation, but nobody would take the job. I remember, like they interviewed me, but then like a couple of weeks had went by, you know, it was a while before they called me back. And then they were like, would you be interested in the job? And I was like, I'll be there tomorrow. Like, I'll take the job.
Yeah.
And so that was to teach there and be the head football coach. And so at 25, I became a high school head coach at St. Pat's and Vallejo. And so
that was the start.
Man, that is wild. And I'm laughing about putting a few plays on and it always worked when it first started. Obviously, your offense is through the roof now. Where did that start to develop, man? When did you start getting dialed in and become this offensive guru with the plays and everything?
Yeah, I'd say the confidence to like kind of try your own thing and do something different really came from Coach Malzahn because he came from high school coaching and he was like known for the spread up tempo, wing tee type of deal.
Yeah.
That we ran at Tulsa and we obviously set a lot of records and stuff. So I was like, you know, I got to start to learn my own thing because I would call his plays when I was at James Logan. But I didn't really know why we called those plays. I just knew that we scored touchdowns in those plays, so they must be good, you know. Like
that's great.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I remember at Logan, my first play call that I ever called was a touchdown. Like Coach, let's make sure we call power. It was like 24G or whatever. Boom, touchdown at Arroyo High School. I'll never forget. Boom, it was a touchdown. First play.
I love it.
I'm pretty good. It's like, you know, the first time you go to the casino and you win, you're like, yeah.
This is my calling, man.
Yeah. But you know, casinos aren't built on, you know, they're not built on winners, obviously. But, you know, but it was just that type of feeling where I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do this, you know. But I didn't know what I was doing. And so when I got to Harker School and we had kids from Asian and Indian, you know, that was their culture and where they came from. They had limited experience of playing football.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're about to have to go play like real football teams, you know, like. You're playing in San Jose, where you're playing like Oak Grove and all these things. I'm like, we can't beat these.
Yeah.
You know, we got like 18 kids on the varsity. Like, we're not gonna beat these guys with this. With these guys, we had 12 kids on JV. Like, we barely had enough to fill both rosters. And I'm like, there's no way. So that's when I started like, I got to find a way to like study some plays, come up with some ideas. Like, and that's when, so like a couple years ago when I was at Pitt, I coached Jordan Addison. We had all these viral videos of receiver coaching stuff because he won the Blitnikoff, obviously. So all those drills that I did with him were the drills that I practiced on those kids and drills that I did myself when I was in junior college. So like, I'm like,
that's awesome.
If I could get these kids to be good with these drills, like imagine when I get like a good somebody who could actually like play.
Yeah.
And so when I went to Hawaii and then I went to Pitt, he won the Blitnikoff, so it blew up. But those were the drills that I was doing with those kids in 2012.
That's crazy.
In San Jose, you know, and I just put those drills together. So the way that I did drills, the way that I thought about teaching and talking to players, the coaching cues, the schematics of it, like that all came from being at Harker.
Yeah.
And then it evolved when I got to St. Pat's, and I'm the head coach now, and I can, build a team and create different things. And, same thing when I went to St. Pat's, they were 1-9 the year before. We had 7 players in the first meeting. There was all these things on, like, there was really no expectation. They were just happy that I had made a team that year. There was no expectation to go win a championship or something.
Exactly.
And I think that's why people aren't very creative now. There's so much money on the line, and there's so much pressure for a coach. You're just going to do something that's like it's already worked.
Yeah.
You've seen the case study on it already.
Yep.
You're not going to really, there's millions on the line, right? And so a lot of guys aren't going to go outside the box and try some new stuff. And so I was blessed because I started at the lower levels where there was no expectations. And, I got to call plays the way that I wanted without anybody being like, why did you just call that?
Yeah.
Why did you run a double reverse pass? Nobody cared,
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, the kid scored. Or the kid, like little Johnny made a play. They didn't, like we didn't have anybody good enough where they were like,
yeah.
Right. So when I got to St. Pat's, that gave me the ability to think that maybe I could coach football a little bit more because it's the team building aspect of it and the team that we built and how we created that like infrastructure and foundation to where that program ended up winning the state championship with the kids that we recruited the year that I was there. Coach Hawkins did a great job. He kept and retained a lot of the staff members that I had hired at St. Pat's. And we just created like a real football program, like an actual program, where the kids were fed, they lifted at certain times, like there was an actual structure in place and program. And then he took that thing to, even better heights, and they won the state championship.
Yeah.
I went on to Pennsylvania, because for me, it's hard to be in places where, like everybody asked me about Sac State, like, why would you take the job? It's because they're invested, because they care.
Yeah.
And to me, I only know football from the mindset of Pittsburgh, and we do football, big. So like when I went to Texas, I was like, oh, I am home.
Yes.
Like, everybody loves football. Everybody thinks football is a big deal. Like I don't have to explain to anybody that football is a big deal. Like that's hard for me. Like if I'm around you and you don't love football, it's like kind of awkward. Like our conversation will be pretty short. Like it'll be pretty short. So, when I went back to Pennsylvania, kind of the same thing. It was an 0-10 team. The coach had been fired in the middle of the year. They had never had a winning season in like 25 years or in school history since the school opened up.
Wow.
And the first year there, we won the conference championship. We, raised over $1 million for a turf field. We were the top offense in the state, but that's actually how I got into college.
Yeah.
So all these relationships and handshakes, I tell the players, like, I don't let players wear hoodies and, have their head down. Like, I just walk around calling players lame most of the day. Like, a lot of you guys are just lame. Like, they think they're cool, but they're like, bro, you're lame. Like, sitting here with your head down, all like dejected, and no one can speak to you. Like, that's corny to me. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
You don't look cool. And so,
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
Man.
because for me, like, you never know who's walking through the football building.
Thank you.
There could be, like, a billionaire or a millionaire or somebody who could give you a job in the future.
Yeah.
And you had your headset on and you had your hood on and you just missed that opportunity.
Yeah.
Like every handshake is an opportunity. Every handshake is an interview. You don't
100%.
know. And so I had a teammate when I was on the Dolphins, Brandon London, that we were pretty close. We were really cool. And his dad was Mike London, the head coach at Virginia.
Yeah.
And so where Waynesboro High School was at, was about an hour and a half, 2 hours from the University of Virginia in Pennsylvania. And so he had a big 7-on-7 tournament there. Waynesboro was like horrible. Like I didn't expect him to even let us in. Like they're 0-10, bunch of farm kids. Like they ain't letting us in this tournament.
Yeah.
So I'm like, bro, can I get your dad's number? I'm not going to blow him up. I'm not one of these guys trying to like blow him up or anything. He was like, I'm going to give you his email. He's like, all right. He was like, I'm going to give you his email. But I'm going to call him and tell him that you're going to email him. He'll answer. And I was like, all right, bet. So I emailed him and I'm like, Waynesboro, we'd really love to be a part of this 7-on-7 tournament. Like, my team's not very good. I just took over the job, but I'd love to like come learn some stuff from you and then, put the team in the 7-on-7 just to like see kind of where we measure up.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, fine, bring your team up. We'll give them a spot. There was no spots left. He penciled us in there, got us a spot. And I remember we got to like the championship bracket.
Ooh.
We didn't win, but we got to the championship bracket with those. Like we had one player on that team that ended up being a Division I football player. Just
Wow.
one. So it wasn't like we had a bunch of And so we were running the plays that we run now. Like we were going up tempo, 2 backs in the back, like in 7-on-7, motioning them out to empty, doing all types of crazy stuff, shifts and motions and beating teams. And he was like, we got to talking at the end. He's like, man, one day I'm gonna hire you, man. I think you're like a good, like you really can do this. And I was like, all right. I didn't think anything of it. People always say like, hey, I'm gonna hook you up, and nothing ever really comes out of it. And so, I finish off at Waynesboro, and then I go to Arizona State with Coach Norvell as a quality control coach, just getting my feet wet going into college. And so I go there with him, learn a lot there. Then I go to a division. Well, first I go to Kentucky Christian, which is an NAIA school. And we actually changed the landscape of college football and some of the stuff that we did there.
Wow.
So the way that people recruit, why people call me like a recruiting whiz and all that type of stuff. So what we would do is, if they didn't have a rule in NAIA about how you could, social media retweet and like stuff and like boost up a kid on the line. But in Division I, they did. Like in FBS, they did. You couldn't do all that in FBS at the time, like how people do it now.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this is Grayson, Kentucky, okay? The biggest show in town was the Dollar General, right? That's
Oh my
a
gosh.
truck stop and a Dollar General were like the 2 biggest shows in town, right? Dollar General, you get some like off-brand Nikes there.
Yeah.
Like, you can get some, like it was a big deal there. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking like, man, we didn't have enough really to practice for spring ball. Like we didn't have enough players. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to recruit. Like we're gonna have to get some guys.
Yeah.
And I was trying to be creative. I'm like, man, how can we get players here? And so I was like, all right, even though we couldn't offer them real scholarships, we were offering like, financial aid packages, different stuff. And I was like, we need to just offer everybody in the country who can play football who's good and see who shows up.
Yeah.
And so we offered like 3,000 kids. Probably. We just offered everybody. And we ended up getting like 150 kids to come see the campus.
Dang.
And they got we probably got like 40 to 50 guys committed during the spring that came to the school. And it really saved the football program because we didn't have enough numbers. But I would retweet and post all our stuff on keep going.
Yeah.
So it was like all over everybody's feed.
Dang.
And so
he
Michigan
hit the algorithm, man.
social
He hit the
media.
algorithm.
And so Michigan and Notre Dame and everybody's like, Coach Marion, can I get an offer from Kentucky Christian? And so then they made it a rule where you could retweet and like for the FBS guys.
Oh.
But that started at Kentucky Christian.
That's wild.
That started at Kentucky Christian.
That is so crazy.
I was there throughout the spring. My mom wasn't doing too well, so I went back to Florida to be with her after spring ball was over. And then one of my friends that was at Oklahoma Baptist, it's a Division II school near Tulsa where I played at. And I went up there with him and coached for the year. I coached the running backs there, and then it was pretty crazy. So all these relationships, like I say, man. When I was on the Dolphins, I used to sit in front of the special teams meeting because I knew, like, being a free agent guy, like, I have to be on special teams. Like, and I kind of like special teams because, I played offense and defense in high school, and I liked special teams. So I'd be in the front. There was an Italian guy, Coach Bono. I liked him. He had some swagger to him. I was like, yeah, I like this guy. He's pretty cool. So I'd sit in front of all his meetings and be first and take notes and act like special teams was the greatest thing since sliced bread. You kind of like that, right? I'd block punts in practice, and I'd be like, in all the drills. And so he was at Central Michigan at the time. He had a couple positions open. I went and interviewed. He gave me the job. He was like, I don't really know what position I'm gonna put you in yet, but I just want you to be a part of the program. Like we need guys like you. Like you're a football guy. We need you. And so I was like, perfect. And so Coach London calls me like 2 weeks later. He calls me and goes, I just took the Howard job. Would you want to be my offense coordinator and quarterbacks coach? And I'm like, is Howard Division I? because I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah.
I knew Howard for the stars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Right.
Taraji and
Yeah,
all that stuff, but
exactly. Exactly.
not for the football.
Not for
program.
football.
And so he's like, yeah, it's D1, did a FCS, HBCU, da-da-da. He was like going through it with me. I was like, Coach, I'll buy my own ticket. I'll be there tomorrow. He makes me sweat it out for like a week or so. So like every day I'm blowing him up like, question mark?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
is this still happening? Like he makes me talk to a couple people. Like you might be working with this guy. And I'm like, oh, I'm not getting this job. So
Oh.
I didn't think I was getting it. And then he calls me one day and he's like, you know what? Because he's a real passionate guy. Like this, I've seen this dude like bang a freaking glass off his head before, and a freaking to get the kids fired up in a pregame meal. And I'm like, Coach, what the heck is Coach doing? He is like the energy bus. Like he is. I always say energy doesn't have an age. 'Cause he's,
Yeah.
in his 60s now. You know.
Yeah.
And he's still. I mean, he can out energy anybody in this room. Like he's freaking passionate.
Is he still coaching there?
Yeah, he's the head coach at William & Mary now.
Yeah.
Got it.
And so he's like, it comes a time in every man's life where he just has to have a chance. And this is your chance.
Oh.
I have a plane ticket for you tomorrow. And I was like, let's go. And so I'm on the flight there to D.C. and, kind of how our offense got the name the Go-Go offense is because of D.C. But it was really the offense that we were running at Harker, at St. Patrick St. Vincent, at Waynesboro High School, and then just came about. It blew up when we, I think UNLV didn't hire me, and I can say this on record because the athletic director was there when we had the biggest upset in college football history with Howard beating UNLV. So,
I love it. I love it.
Damn.
I don't know. Shots fired, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that was a determining factor in I don't know if I like this guy.
Yeah.
Too much,
Yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, that opportunity really changed the trajectory of my life and my family's life, So, Coach Lennon gave me that opportunity. Always grateful. I had to call him and, ask him if I could take a strength coach.
Yeah.
Because the strength coach we're hiring here is the strength coach at William & Mary, and we work together at Howard. So, he's the OG. I had to call him respectfully.
Yeah, for sure. Got to do that.
You took a strength coach.
Yeah. Coach, please don't be mad at me. But
you got to bless me with this, man.
That's crazy. So fast forward, at what point did you meet Xavier Worthy? I want to kind of hear that story because you touched on it when I met you guys when you spoke to some of the alum. Ultimately, which I believe kind of helped land the job for you in Texas. So when did you guys first cross paths?
Yeah, so there had been a coach that I had known when I was coaching out here in high school football and stuff in the Bay. And, really that 7-on-7 stuff kind of just started. And we were trying to, build teams and stuff. That was kind of like the craze in 2012, 2013. Like that was really starting. Like Nate Kenyon, who's with me, KT and T, Nate's coaching with me now at, up here at the school at Sac State.
Yeah.
And so everybody had been telling me Xavier's the one, you got to talk to this kid. When I was at Hawaii at the time, or no, it was before I was at Hawaii. It was at William & Mary, and everybody had been telling me Xavier's a guy, da da da. And so me and Xavier just started talking. He was 14 or 15 at the time. I think he was about to be a sophomore, and so. It's a crazy story. There's a lot of crazy stories in football. Make sure you sign the contract first, always, before you take a job. But I remember I went to Hawaii, and me and Xavier had just been, talking each day, every day. And so I was like, you're not going to go to Hawaii. You're too good for Hawaii. I basically told him, you're too good for Hawaii. I'm going to offer you here, but you're too good for Hawaii. I offered him, I think, at William & Mary, too. I'm like, you're not going here.
Yeah.
You're like a first-round draft. You're going to be like a real guy.
Where was he playing high school football?
In Fresno.
Okay.
Yeah, in Fresno. And so, I'm talking to him, and we have similar stories. He comes from a single mom, a lot of similar stuff. And we're, we both pride ourselves on being tough kids that can we don't need no man, we'll figure it out type guys, And so we're just connecting and we're talking ball and we're just building a relationship, just, normal recruiting stuff. But I was supposed to get a job at a school. And there was a certain coach, it was a big-time school, certain coach who, me and him had the same agent at the time. He shakes my hand. This dude flies me all around different places, shakes my hand, tells me I have a job, and then he doesn't give me the job. But in that process, he asked me to get Xavier, another kid by the name of Troy Franklin. He asked me to get them to this school. And I said, well, I know for sure that I can get both of these guys
Yeah.
because I have a good relationship with Troy and his coach, and I have a great relationship with Xavier and his mom. Like, we talk every day, and so it didn't work out, right? And so I stayed at Hawaii for a year or whatever, and me and Xavier always talk. Like, we're FaceTiming each other, we're talking. You know, me and his mom are always talking. We're just, keeping it just became like really family.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even like it wasn't even like a coach to player. It was just about anything.
Yeah.
And so I would send Xavier drills. He would be doing like drills that I had and like different release drills, different stuff. And he would send me like a clip of like, Coach, did I do the drill right? Like, what else do I need to work on? And we just kind of kept that rapport. When it came to his time to be recruited to Michigan, because he went to Michigan first. Everybody really kind of misses that part.
I didn't know that.
But he went to Michigan first, and I was close with Coach Gaddis. And I was like, he'll take care of you. He's a good receiver coach. He worked at Bama. He worked with some really good receivers. And I know Coach Harbaugh likes to, like, the way your skill set of being a vertical down the field type of receiver, like, he'll really utilize that with the run game and stuff. And so I said, that's probably a good plan for you. And he was like, all right, boom. Me and his mom were talking back and forth, me and Xavier. And he kind of took my guidance on going there. So grade-wise, or something happened with the whole COVID thing. Something kind of happened where he got to Michigan, couldn't get in the school. Something happened.
Got it.
Got lost in translation. And so he gets in the portal. He goes to Texas, and he's like, that's now when I'm at Pitt. And I'm like, there's a couple players, some really big-time players that wanted to come to Pitt. But it was all predicated on me becoming the offense coordinator there. That didn't happen. We had the greatest year ever at Pitt. I thought I'd be the offense coordinator there. That's what I was kind of, told.
Yep.
That didn't work out, didn't come about. And so at the end of the season, there was a lot of schools, inquiring about me coaching there. And I just remember Sark calling me, and, he's like, we have a receiver position open. But that all started from Xavier and his mom blowing me up every day and saying, like, you're going to come coach at Texas. And I'm like, I don't know Steve Sarkisian. Like,
That wasn't even in your plan. You weren't even thinking.
Yeah, I'm like, if coaching doesn't work like that, like, he's not going to just, like, be like, yeah, like, I'm hiring him. Like, most coaching is like, I knew you through somebody else, and boom, and that's how we. Like, in coaching, it's a really kind of a weird practice in coaching, but there's really not like an interview like it's kind of strange in coaching how you get hired most places. And so, long story short, his mom and Xavier like, you're taking the job, and they're like, you're coming here, and I'm like, okay, I don't know. And Sark is calling me, and he's like, yeah, man, I hear great things about you, and I'm like, okay, coach. Like, I hear you, like, I'm listening.
Yeah.
But there had been a lot of other schools at the time.
Of course.
We just won the ACC championship, and Jordan won the Blitnikoff. So it was like, I was like the hot name at the time. And so we go to Atlanta for the bowl game, and all these coaches wanted me to, like, come interview at their schools after the bowl game was over. And I was like, listen, when this bowl game is over, because my kids are in the Bay Area, like, I'm going to go to the Bay Area, and if you want to interview me, you can come see me in the Bay Area.
Yep.
But I'm going to see my kids. Like, I'm not going to any school. I'm not, like, I don't, it's really not that serious to me. Like, I'll be okay. Like, I know I have enough schools that want me where I'll have a job.
Yep.
Like, I'll be fine. And so I went to, when I was at the Chick-fil-A Bowl, Sark was like, I'll be there tomorrow. I'll be outside. Where do you want to go eat at? Just tell me what time you want to go. I'll be sitting outside wherever you practice at, wherever you're staying at. Like, I'll be there. And I was like, this dude knows how to recruit.
Yeah.
This dude knows, he's serious.
Dang. Yeah.
This dude. And so he was there. We went to eat, shook hands, sent me the contract. And
Wow. Man.
I said, I'm still going to see my kids. Like, I'm not coming to Texas. He was like, yeah, good. Do your thing. Be here on this date in January. And I was like, perfect.
That's crazy.
That's how I got to Texas.
Were you happy? Like, were you happy? I mean, were you, like, stoked to be going to Texas?
Yeah, to me, I mean, that's the top of the top of college football. Like,
crazy.
And at the time, like, obviously, we built a culture there, and Sark built a culture where obviously they're rolling, and they, one game away from the national championship. And so, at the time, it wasn't like that. They had just had a rough season. That was Sark's first year. They had a bad season. and everybody's like, Texas is struggling. He's going to lose his job, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think Texas will be all right.
Yeah.
And I was super excited about the opportunity just to learn from, because at my mind, I know my football skills. I'm pretty confident in what I know, and I wanted to be around some guys that could teach me some things.
Yes.
And so when I was at Pitt, I learned a lot from Mark Whipple, who won a Super Bowl and was a head coach and a coordinator, and he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot about the passing game, how to coach a quarterback better, like just little nuggets that I really needed to know to take my career to another level. Because it got to the point where it was like I was kind of like I knew all that I could gather myself. I had studied all the books. I had watched all the videos. I had called my own offense at William Marion Howard. I had All-American players, but I needed what's that next level, that next tier of football.
Yeah.
Because in my mind as a competitor, if you can make it, from junior college to the NFL, you can do the same thing as a coach.
Yep.
And so, but I needed to be around some guys that were at those levels. And so being around Mark Whipple, was invaluable. I learned so much from him.
Man.
And just how he coached guys and demanded guys. Like me and him got along because he was that was the meanest old man ever. And I'm like a grumpy old man, but I'm young, so the kids like me a little bit more because I'm still they think I'm cool, but I'm really like a grumpy old man, And so it was great to be around him because he was at the point where, he's almost 70 years old. He's like, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. He's just like, Coach, did you just say that? So it was good to be around him. And then Sark, he's obviously done it NFL, college, at the best schools, and just getting to see how he recruited and coached and developed a team. And, being at Texas where you have to be a CEO of a program, that's where I really learned, Texas is a business. That is the biggest brand.
Yes, sir.
Everywhere you go as a coach there, it's like, hook 'em on, let's go. Everywhere. Little kids, grandma, everybody is you can't hide in Texas. You are the biggest brand everywhere.
Yep.
And so for him to handle all that, plus be a great recruiter, plus, be a dad, plus, have the scheme mind that he has and creativity that he had, I was like, man, I'm learning, so much about, ultimately what's helping me now in this role. And then when I coordinated again at the FBS level at UNLV. And so I learned a ton there. And, ultimately, the program we're trying to build here is trying to mirror some of the things that we did there as far as taking it to that extreme and taking it to that level. Because we were talking about this the other day. I was talking about this with President Wood, the same way that Sacramento is the capital of California, Austin is the capital of Texas.
Right.
And the same way that there's no other football team in Austin, there's no other football team in Sacramento.
That's right.
And you can make it be that way. Now, obviously, we don't have all the tradition that Texas football has,
of course.
100 years of tradition and all that stuff.
Of course.
But at the same time, we could build it in a way where it could be that big time.
Agree.
And, I remember I was telling my wife, there's 100,000 people outside of the game, and then there's 100,000 people inside of the game. There's a concert going on. There's a carnival going on. But you're in the state capital. It's just that football team funds the whole community. It funds the whole operation there.
Man.
And you could do that at Sac State. There's nothing holding you back from actually accomplishing that at Sac State.
Agreed.
Long time coming.
Man, no doubt. I want to pick a little bit of the brain because that statement of the ones that state that they want to make it to Division I, and you're like, all right, I'm taking them aside and take them to a dark place, man. One of the things I'm always interested in, being a good coach, great coach, a motivator, X's and O's, that's all great. But how do you teach mindset? How do you teach people to develop to be strong upstairs? I would love to hear your thought process on that, man.
Yeah, so our program is really built on three things that we talk about. Well, really the core, I say, is love. I feel like if you love football, right, you're willing to go through anything that you have to go through to accomplish that football dream. And what does that look like? And so many things that you you know, if you start with just the love piece of football, it builds the tree on so many other things that, you know, are that foundation. You know, like, so if you love it, right, you'll have the obedience, the discipline, the structure. You'll go through all the processes of it, of what it takes to be great at it. But also that makes you an educated man because you have to be, you know, you have to be eligible. You have to strive for a degree. You have to do all these you have to do community service. You have to, you know, build with teammates. You have to be a great teammate. There's so many things. If you just start with the love piece of it, if that's at your center, then you start building those branches and you build that tree of, you know, who you become. And, you know, like anybody who's played sports, if you truly love the sport, it'll love you back.
Oh, yeah.
And it might not, it doesn't always mean NFL or NBA.
For sure.
It means like you're a productive person in society and you know how to be on a team. You know how to set a goal. You know how to get up on time. You know how to be respectful, whether you fail or you win. You know how to continue to accomplish. And those are what, you know, makes a positive person in society. And so, you know, that love piece is really big for us. We really only want to recruit and bring in players that love football because just knowing myself, like, you'll just be uncomfortable around
For sure.
me. Like, you won't be able to be okay because I'm obsessed with everything that it comes with. You know, some people love it, then there's obsession. You know, like, I wouldn't do anything else. Like, I don't want to do anything else. I don't plan, you know. I'm either a football coach or I'm husband and dad. Like, that's really that's my hobbies. You know, like, hanging out with my wife and hanging out with my kids are my hobbies. Like, everything else is football. Like, what are we doing? Football, you know, like nonstop. So that's very important. And then the three things that our program is really going to be built on is heart, intelligence, and toughness. And I told the families this the other day. Heart is like your why, your character, your story, your purpose. Like, what is that filled up with? Like, what is that passion, right? Because you can't fake that. And it's our job as coaches. And the reason why I hired the coaches that I hired, I could have hired guys that had, you know, bigger resumes and won more championships, but I wanted to hire guys that really cared about kids. And could really inspire kids. Because I feel like a good coach should always be like, you know, when I dropped my daughter off at daycare for the first time and she ran out like, Dad, you know, like, you know how your kids are so excited when they see you. You know, like, you can't fake it as a player. Like, everybody knows the coaches really like, man, this dude. And then you're like, man, this dude, like, he's going to make sure I'm right. Like, and the dude can be a complete, like, I'm not everybody's friend. I'm not the nicest coach to, you know, like, a lot of people say he's hard to work with. Well, that's because you don't want to be great. Like, I'm sorry. You know, like Michael Jordan said, like, I'm sorry that I wanted to win. Like, I apologize. Like, you know, but at the same time, it's like, if you really care, if you're really pouring in, like, you can't fake the consistency of really being there for someone over and over again and making sure that they actually are striving for greatness and pushing them. And so heart is one. Intelligence is the next one. And what I mean by being intelligent is, like, to me, it's about finding solutions. It's not really what you score on the SAT or what your GPA is. Like, obviously, we want guys that have great GPAs and they're about, you know, their academic standards being high, and we want to graduate every player that comes through our program. But it's about just finding the solution. You know, so much about life, you know, once you're on the other side of life, when you're not a teen, you know, is about, like, okay, how was I able to communicate with this person to get done what I needed to get done? Like, were you smart enough to come up with the solution on how to figure that out? And that's something that you have to teach. And so why I don't like the hoodies and all that stuff is because that's just not intelligent for you to be successful in life. Like, you're not gonna be able to work into anywhere and just, you know, maybe if you can create an app or something that, you know, like, great. But most people don't have the acumen to create an app and, you know, just blow up and be multi-millionaire. Like, that's not realistic. Most people have to walk in, shake a hand, figure out a strategy with somebody, connect, and figure out how they're going to reach a goal. Right? And that's how they're successful. And so that's one thing that's big to me in our program. And then toughness. I always tell these guys, like, there was a kid at William & Mary, Jalen. I was rough. I'm a hard coach. And, you know, the one thing he told me, like, he didn't play a lot that year, and he had played years previously. And I just told him, like, the freshman kid beat you out, like, you know, and the kid was a freshman All-American who beat him out. So it wasn't like he got beat out by a scrub. Like, he got beat up by a pretty good player. And, you know, at first he was upset at me and, you know, like any competitor would be, he was like, I'm not the starter, I'm mad, you know, whatever. And I was like, bro, regardless of how you feel in real life, you're going to have to show up as a man and provide. Like, you're going to have to come with it every day, regardless of any circumstance, any nonsense story you made up in your head. If the person doesn't like you, like the rent is due.
Thank you.
The car payment is due. The daycare bill is due. Like, for a man, there's no like, oh, I'll get it next time. You know, like, oh, I don't feel good today.
Man.
You know, and so for most guys, I try to explain that to them, the toughness part of it. And if they don't get it, I always refer to their mothers, right? So Coach K put a thing out about being as tough as your mother. And I thought about that, you know, like my mom, she, with the limited amount of resources that she had, I remember, like, I mean, we didn't get child support. My dad lived 15 minutes. Like, he never helped with a bill. Like all the stuff that you need, like a man to fill in those holes and gaps for you. You know, a lot of people say they're single moms, you know, and, you know, I struggle with that story because I really experienced a single mom. My mom was a single mom. She had no support from our dads, right? From me and my brother's dad. Like, she didn't have support. Like, it was food stamps, it was family members, it was working 2 and 3 jobs. I mean, she sold flowers at nightclubs. She was a bartender. She did everything she could to try to, like, at least keep the lights on. And so for some guys who can't get the male reference of it, I give them be as tough as your mother. Like, whatever your mom's going through, she found a way to at least give you a place to stay. You know, like you know, whatever she went through, man leaving, man left, man treated her bad, she found a way to provide something.
That's right.
Right? And so that toughness part of our program is not just we're going to play tough and violent and all those things. Like, yes, we're about that on the football field. It's more so of the showing up every day. If you have 85% or you have 90%, you're giving all 90%.
Exactly.
That 120% and 100, to me, that's BS. Like, you don't feel great every day. But every day you wake up and you got to go get it. Like, you have to have that mindset. And so that's what our program will be about: heart, intelligent, and tough. And so that's the lessons that we try to consistently teach every day and make sure our guys know what that looks like, giving them examples. We show every day we start our meeting off with I tell people, we either started off with trap music, country music, or gospel music each day. The music will be blaring at 5:30 a.m. We'll be rolling, right? Because my uncle, he's an engineer, and he's like one of the most successful men that I've known, and he shows up. He's a great dad. You know, when my dad wasn't around, he lived 2 hours from me. He lived in Cleveland. I lived in Pittsburgh. He'd say, what are you doing on the weekend? I'm like, man, I don't got nothing to do. He'd be like, I'll be there in 2 hours. I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to take you to this car show. I'm going to take you to play basketball. He would drive 2 hours. Like, he had his own family to worry about. Like, he would drive 2 hours to come get me, Uncle John. And so, you know, these guys have to know, like, what it looks like to wake up and have a good attitude and a good spirit about what you're doing. So we try to make a good environment in the morning. Like, good morning. Like, we're up. We're rolling. Like, it's time. You know, like, because you guys know, being successful, like, there's no, like, I sleep until 1 and then I start working. Like, that's not.
Doesn't happen.
That's not realistic.
I can't believe that I'm an early riser, but as time goes away, that's the advantage, is getting up and getting after it in the morning. I would have laughed at you if you'd have told me I'd be up at 4:30 every day. Now it's just there because you have to. You got to show for your kids. And just like you said earlier, man, I mean, it starts with love. Your players have to know that you care about them genuinely, but you can't be a hypocrite. You cannot. Otherwise, it will never work. So getting up and having that morning be powerful, that's starting it off, man. I love hearing that.
Absolutely.
I can only imagine what it must be for, like, an actual football player playing for you. Like, because I'm ready to put the pads on. That's what I told you the first time. I'm like,
listen, man, you suck, man. I don't know. You can't make it out there. But I feel you, man. I was a
continuation basketball player. I played continuation high school basketball. He's a little bit better than me, but in my mind, I'm a good athlete.
I love it, man. I'm with
Every
you,
football player thinks they had basketball dreams, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I always thought that I'd have been a real hooper if I would have.
Oh, that is 100% it. It is not the same the opposite way, though. Like, I never walked around like I would have towed y'all up on the football. I never said that. But every football player all day, every day thinks they come out and
No
destroy
doubt.
some
And
basketball.
We're terrible. And we're terrible. We're terrible. I always say basketball players are way more athletic than football players. Now, do they want to get tackled? Do
No,
they
hell
wanna...
no.
Hell no.
But the athletic part of it, I'm like, it is so hard to try to switch football to basketball and be,
Man.
very few people have done it and been successful.
I used to say, I was like, man, I think I'd be a DB, you know, and then I started watching them get cleaned up by their own players from the, I'm like, nah, I don't want to be that either, man. They get hurt harder.
Absolutely not.
Man, friendly fire is a real thing, man. But man, incredible. You got it. You got a couple more?
I think the big thing is, you kind of touched on it, but is it safe to say that head coach Sac State? I just want to hear from you, like, what has been the most rewarding thing that's happened to you in your entire coaching career?
Yeah, so when I stopped being a high school head coach at Waynesboro, like, I've really kind of been, I'd say, brokenhearted since I stopped doing that. I'm a horrible assistant coach. I mean, I'm just be honest. I'm not the yes, sir.
Yeah.
I've always done that because ultimately I'm a team guy and I was a team captain. And so I believe in the team more than I believe in my own individuality. And so I'm able to sacrifice that for the team. But to me, like, my basketball background growing up, being the point guard, I'd like to have the ball in my hands and I'd like to assist it to people and I'd like to see them score. I love to see other people score and be successful. And so when I was a high school head coach, there's many guys that I hired who are now making six figures and they lived with me at first. They were trying to figure out what they were going to do with their life and, just going through that transition, right? And so players who are successful because of the programs that we put in place. I remember I had the Marines wake our players up in the morning, and then I have like 4 or 5 players that are really ultra successful Marines now from that Marine experience that they had that morning of us waking them up in camp and the Marines working with them. And so all those little things of building a team and being the one who helps people and puts them in the right position and place to be successful, I missed a lot. And so when you're an assistant coach, you always have to just say, okay, even though you might not agree or you want to hire somebody or help somebody and you can't because it's not your program. And so you have to be like, yes, sir, we'll just go with whatever the head coach wants, and you just do that. And so, now being a head coach again and being able to give people opportunity and put people in position to be successful and give people a chance, for me, my wife, Maddie, her background, she was a trainer, an athletic trainer, and women don't get a lot of opportunities to be the head football athletic trainer. Just like black dudes with tattoos on their hand and neck don't get a chance to be a head coach or an offensive coordinator. And, just a lot of different things. I have an Indian guy on our staff. To me, I've never seen any of that. I just think of, it's like when you're at recess as a kid, I always say, and you just like look at the kids and you go like, who can help the team win? Like, that's me. Like, and I don't care if it was a girl, a dude. Like, I'm like, he's good. I seen him run fast. She's good. I seen her bully people. Boom. I've never cared about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have any political rate. Like, I don't have any of that feeling. I just like, can you help the team win? Are you a good person? Do you care about people? Do you care about players? Are you going to make the organization better? And I've always wanted to be the head coach or the leader so I could put those people that people might say about that person because whatever background they're from or whatever they look like or, if they're a woman or a man, like all that stuff, like I wanted to be a head coach so I could give people those opportunities. And so now my heart is completely full again being back in this role. And that's probably I always say like right now, like this is the best situation that I've been in as far as me personally as a coach. The other part of the journey for me has just been the players, like to see Jordan Addison, for example, me and President were together like 2 weeks ago and Jordan Addison's texting me practice film and telling me the techniques that we worked on because we had we brought in so many good receivers at Texas and other places I've been because I have a board of like every single step that you would take and how you would take the step and why you would take the step. And it's just detailed A to Z. Like, and he's going like A step, B step. Coach, look at my A step right here. Like,
Wow.
and he's texting me the practice film. I got
Wow.
Minnesota Vikings practice film of him showing me like, look how I just broke this dude off on the route.
Wow.
You know, and for me, it's like some of the greatest things for those guys who have made it to the next level is that their coaches don't worry about them. Like, they know, like,
That's
Andy
awesome.
Reid knows Xavier Worthy's good. Like, Xavier's like, Coach, I still work all our releases. I still work all the catching drills that we like. A coach saying, like, an NFL coach that has won Super Bowl saying, like, no, you're good. You got it. Like, he, you know, that's to my heart. And then the players who didn't make it to the next level, seeing them be husbands, dads, having great jobs, and them hitting me up and being like, Coach, I'm still on it. Like, they'll send me like a motivational thing that I send them or something, and they'll be like, you know, because that's why I really don't love Instagram, because I'm a visual learner and it'll take up a lot of my day when you get to, I need to like turn it off. But I keep it because of those kids and them. They want to see like the visuals and seeing their visuals of what they're doing in their life. And I'm like so proud of all the stuff that they're doing. I know there's a kid from last one, you know, this all the player stories is really what's more important to me.
Yeah.
I don't think I've made a ton of friends in the coaching industry. I'm like not everybody's best bud, you know, but to me, it's about the relationship with the players. And so Gerald Wright was a kid at Howard that they said, get rid of, kick him out. He's a horrible kid. You know, I think he was like the school weed man. Like, the dude was not a great, you know, he was a Florida kid. He came from a lot of different stuff. And so I just sat down with him. I'm like, listen, me and Coach London are putting our neck on the line for you. Like, you got 1 year, one great year could change your life. Let's lock in. Let's focus on this year. You know, like, I think you're a good kid. You haven't played yet here. Let's just prove it. Let's just lock in and prove it. And was he perfect? No, he wasn't perfect, but he became an All-American that year. We had the first winning season in a long time at Howard. We had the biggest upset in college football history. And now he's like running a community center and he's taking care of his kids. And,
Golly.
you know what I'm saying? And that was like,
that's it.
that was a kid they were trying to get rid of. Like, they, you know, and everything said get rid of that kid. You know, there was nothing, he didn't have too many redeeming qualities that you wanted to, you know, keep him. But, you know, just stories like that and seeing those guys be successful, that's really what's the most important to me as a coach.
Even when you're playing as well as coaching, you know that's the fork in some people's lives. That's literally life-altering, life-saving, could be a conversation just like that, man. That gives me chills just hearing it, because that's really what it's about, man.
Absolutely. I just feel like that was a coach's job, is to take a player somewhere he doesn't even know. Like, a player really doesn't know how far he can go. You know, like, I really did. If Coach Kavanaugh didn't give me the junior college is a good option, right? And then when I got to junior college, it was like, I could really do this. I could be great at this. And I set a goal, and, you know, like, but there's just those little things that, you know, when you're a mentor or whatever, you help someone get to a spot faster.
Yeah, no
right?
doubt.
Because you already took the road. You know, like, you already knew the roadblocks and the right. So, you know, those things are always awesome as a coach, to just see players doing well and being successful. And, you know, in my mind, like, I always think about the guys that I couldn't save. You know, like, the guys that I couldn't help. Like, man.
Not everybody's ready. Not everybody's ready.
Yeah.
When you're talking with them, man. But you
and
gotta try.
And that's the thing that you know, like, for me, it's like, when I see the guys doing good, I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
good. You know, but it's like, what about that one? Like,
Yeah.
you know, but you can't save them all. But hopefully, you know, those guys eventually will get back to the messages that they learned in football and take themselves somewhere.
Love it.
Not to throw you under the bus, but you played how many years at Sac State?
I play for
4 years. Yeah. When you played, did you go to a lot of Sac State football games?
Oh yeah, I was there all the time. Charles Roberts was back there. He was running like crazy. We had a few people make it to the next level. They were just as bad as we were in basketball, though. So, I mean, it wasn't a lot of winning going on.
The buzz that's currently going on, how fired up are you to
Absolutely.
go and watch some Sac State football games?
Prior to him meeting you at the event, when they started to announce, when they announced you, I reposted right from the beginning, and I started doing the digging in the background, and now talking to the people who are close to to the program, I've never been more fired up than what I am right now for this man being in town.
Yeah, the buzz going around the city, man. We're just so happy that you're here. And
Seriously,
it's
man.
just Sacs. I mean, I'm a fourth generation Sacramento, so my family's been here for 100 years.
Yeah.
I maybe been to like 2 Sac State football games.
Yeah, you better sign up for season tickets.
Yeah,
Bro.
man, you know
We're
it.
putting you on the hook for season tickets.
Bro, done.
Yeah, we're putting you on the hook for season tickets.
Done, man. It's just I just cannot freaking wait, bro.
No, amazing. And I guess the end of last, what you were touching on here goes into what we make sure we ask everybody who comes in the lounge, man. What does legacy mean to you?
Man. One day I just want my kids to say, Dad took care of us and he made sure we had everything and we didn't have to grow up like him. And as far as the players and what football looks like, my wife knows, like they'll bury me on a football field. So.
Yeah.
I'm not so much concerned about legacy because it's more so I just love football and I love people. And those stories in that field, it just keeps me going. So I'll be there.
Mm.
I mean, whatever the legacy is when I'm laid out on the field and somebody got to come. I can't get up. I mean,
Man.
I'll be on the field. I mean, I just couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Man, I mean, just being out there pouring into people nonstop and giving it your all, man, that is, you're downplaying it, but you already know how many people you've affected. And now you're on a platform that's, like, again, I keep saying it, life-altering for these kids, man. So amazing. Thank you for sharing your story here, man. I truly appreciated every bit of it, man. And like he said, we can't wait to see the future for you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate
All
you.
right, we out.